I'm Jazz Tankay, Senior Artist in Theatre Variety. How amazing is Dìdi? I am so excited to be here tonight. Please give it up for director, writer, and producer Sean Wang, and the legend herself, Ms. Chen. Such an amazing work. Thank you everybody for coming out. I'm curious, has anybody seen Dìdi beforehand? Look at that, what a woman. Congratulations on all things, Dìdi. Sean, I'm going to start with you because this journey has been so incredible, but what was the genesis for Dìdi and you writing this story?
Well, thank you guys for being here and staying for the Q&A. Yeah, I mean, I would say the seed of the idea really started back in 2017, and it was a very simple seed of just like, what if you took a movie like Stand By Me, which is one of like my favorite movies about boyhood and adolescence, but set it in a place that I know, which was like the suburbs of the Bay Area in Fremont, and had it star kids who looked and talked and felt like my friends, you know, many of which were like, Fremont is a very multicultural community, and so it was a lot of first-gen kids, but also just like kids of all different sort of backgrounds, and just see what that did to the movie. If it was like hyper-specific to these characters, and not just like that takes place anywhere, stars any one movie. Like their cultural backgrounds, their heritage was all very connected on the page. And that kind of, you know, was like a 5-6 year journey of writing it and then eventually making it.
I mean, Joan, you're a legend. This is such a great character. Talk about what it was like for you to get this script and read this character, read this incredible mother and her story.
When I was first handed the script, I was just really, the first thing was that I was impressed that it's a solid script. It's just so well written. And the mother character is someone I know well. It's close to my own life, even though, we're two very different women, but I am an immigrant mother who raised 2 American children, and I know other parents who are like me and like Joan's son in this film. Very different from our stereotypical tiger moms or strict patriarchs like in many other films. And I love the fact that she's she's artistic. She has her own artistic aspirations, and also we're so unsure how to raise our kids as immigrant mothers, because we want them to assimilate, to do well in America, but we don't know what's best for them. We don't know how to teach them or anything like that. I've had that experience myself very much. And having had weathered so many storms with my 2 daughters, this film just felt so cathartic and also in a way redemptive, because I do think Sean's mom is more patient, more resilient. She just has this forbearance that I seem to lack a bit. So it's another chance for me to be a mother for a teen.
Oh my goodness. Sean, when Joan said yes to this, what went through your head?
I was both incredibly happy and incredibly surprised, because we sent her the script and we had this Zoom meeting that kind of both, again, in retrospect went really well, but like it was bunch of technical difficulties. I didn't have Zoom Pro, so we spent the first 20 minutes trying to figure out how to turn on her camera, and then finally got it to turn on, and then we talked about the movie for 20 minutes, and then I was like, okay, cool, do you want to jump off Zoom and jump back on? Because we're going to get kicked off. And she was like, no, I think we're okay. And so, I'm like, I don't know if that went. I was like, did I sell the vision of the movie? I just wasn't sure how it went. I was like, I don't know if she's interested. Otherwise we would have kept talking about it. And then we got a text from her manager that was like, Joan loves Sean, Joan loves the movie, she wanted to do it. So I was like, oh, amazing. I guess that Zoom went well. Because it was a lot of just sort of but again, I think we talked about this yesterday, but it was I went into that Zoom thinking oh, I'm about to meet with Chen, the movie star, and I had never really talked to any sort of, all the actors in the movie are not actors, so I was like, oh my god, I've never talked to a celebrity before or anything, and that Zoom felt so warm and familiar and not sell me the movie. It was like, how do you turn on the camera? And so in that sense, it was kind of just another layer of oh yeah, Joan, she is a movie star. Her performances is so deeply empathetic and human, and she can just command the screen with her eyes, and that to me is a movie star. She communicates so much emotion with just no words, but she reminds me of my mom at the same time. So that sort of balance is exactly what we needed for this movie. So I think that Zoom was actually oh yeah, she's perfect. Yeah.
I mean, she is perfect. But I mean, did you have any notes for Sean on maybe you could do this with the mom, or maybe change things, or was it just
No, I didn't. I think he got it. I mean, I did get to know Sean's mom. I did want to, know more about her, and Sean basically created the script inspired by his own life, his own relationship with his mom, and so I did get to know Sean's mom quite well. I had Sean, he interviewed his mom, lots of it, so I watched that, Sean's interviewing of his mother, and also then I had Sean's mom record all my lines, and I just wanted to see. I'm just curious. I'm not going to copy Sean's mom, but I wanted to see her take on it. And she is gentle and firm, and she has a lot of faith. She is a woman with very strong faith, and so that's my approach to it. I mean, I don't think I gave you any notes about anything about the character at all.
No notes, but I think as a amazing actress, she would talk about the character and she would ask questions what would she do here? And I'd be well, I never thought about that. Let me go, do my homework, and I think it.
Oh yeah, we did a very detailed background story. I think one thing about playing a supporting role is that you do know you have limited screen time, and you can't let go 1 second of it, and so. Yeah, it was a detailed, very detailed, I mean, stuff that you don't see at all on the screen, but so that we know very well who she is.
Yeah. We've got to talk about Isaac. Isaac is so good in this film. The casting, talk about finding the perfect Chris.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's about to go into college now, which is a little crazy. Okay, we should FaceTime him, but no, I mean, I think the thing I look back on, especially with Isaac in this movie, is that him and Joan are really the heart of the movie, and he has to sort of go through, I think we obviously auditioned a lot of kids, and Isaac, out of everyone in the movie, he is a trained actor, has done, previous roles, and so he had an agent. And so obviously we're gonna, you see a 14-year-old casting call, he's gonna submit. And I think the natural inclination to think is that like, oh, he's probably playing a version of himself. And there's obviously bits of Isaac and Chris, but like that is such a calculated performance on Isaac's part. And I think when I first met Isaac, I think a lot of times child actors or actors of his age who are trained and want to perform, they feel like they're performing. You know, they kind of, as soon as you meet them, they're kind of like, hi Sean, like, how are you? And they try and act like a teenager, but he very much from the first Zoom was like, what's up, dude? And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's interesting. You're like kind of a punk, or like you're not interested in impressing the audition system. He's just like, I like acting, but I'm also a real kid. And I think that's kind of the perfect balance we were looking for. And so it was sort of like, no, we saw something so special in him, but it was then like a months long like sort of process of trying to chisel away the like facade of looking cool. Like it was like that had to be that all of that desire to be cool, that coolness had to underneath it had to be this like deep insecurity and vulnerability that Chris has. And I think Isaac, when we first met him, like was so like not, that wasn't his natural state, because in all the other roles he's played, it's like a comedic relief character. And so it was like, oh, we can get him there, but have that sort of charisma and that angst on top of it, it would be so, so good. And so he had to kind of get to that place of being comfortable, being uncomfortable, which I think seeing him grow in the process and kind of like obviously work alongside Joan was like, oops, very, very cool and special. And like,
You want it?
Okay,
Isaac's incredible, but so are the other kids, but a lot of them had never acted before. So what was that like working with kids? Doing their first? They tell you never to act with kids, right, and animals.
It was honestly so fun.
Yeah.
You know, I think I really got to just like tap into this like. I mean, I directed the movie when I was like in my late 20s, so I was like not so far removed from being a kid. And all of like, there's like hundreds of tapes somewhere out there of me improvising with every kid that we casted. And it was that sort of like, oh, whatever this is, like this electricity that we're feeling, it's like, okay, they can riff, they feel like real teenagers, but it's all on Zoom. And like even when we found the kids and like put them in like a sort of chemistry read on Zoom and just let them kind of bounce off each other, I was like, this feels like me and my friends. It felt so alive, and I was just like, if we can get this on set and make them feel as comfortable as they are now sitting in their room and like ignoring all the big apparatus of filmmaking, like, because I think a lot of the kids, I felt like my job was they would walk on set and it would be obviously very different than improvising with me or something in like their bedroom or their house. They're like, whoa, this is way bigger than we thought. There's like a giant light and this camera that's like the size of me. And I think a lot of them for the first 2 hours were a little bit like obviously intimidated. It's a very intimidating, like film sets are intimidating if you've never been on one before. And so I felt like a lot of my job was just kind of being like, no, all of this is here for you. Like this is just truly your playground. We really try to create like a summer camp environment. And I think once they understood the sort of like, you know, like doing multiple takes, not because you're doing it wrong, but just like play. Like, you know, we obviously have limited time, but it's all just like, let's try something here, let's try something new, and try something here. And they're like, oh, like this really is just like what we were doing on Zoom. And I'm like, yep, exactly, just like that. And I think once they felt free to just kind of like try something like very, very different and like not feel like they had to be perfect, it made everything so easy.
The one thing that you said, you know, like Joan and Isaac, you know, you're the heart of the film, but, you know, that chemistry, if that didn't work, the whole film doesn't work, right? Talk about, you know, how much time did you get to spend with Isaac before you actually started shooting, and what was it like working with him as your son?
I think I'm lucky that Isaac is a professional, you know, and also in the casting, in Sean's and the casting directors imagining all of us together, they did a good job. Sometimes it's like, oh, how do you build the chemistry? So when we met, we had chemistry. And so sometimes it's just the right casting. I talked to him, I felt like I could be a mother talking to him. It just felt so good, felt very real. And talking about like other first time actors, like non-professional actors, when they are relaxed, they are all so good. It's something that the professionals look and said, that's how we do it. You know, truly, I mean, you want to be as authentic as these kids are, and you can't be like having any sign of performance. And so that's in a way a challenge to me too. Our set is a lovely set. Very young, very not relaxed. Everybody trying to rush to get the work done, but still that feeling is very family-like. It's like a family production, and that also helps that for us to all feel like a family. Yeah.
I love that. The other thing I love is the 2008 setting of it all. When you see the MySpace, it's the nostalgia spots that you hit, right? Guys used to see somebody laughing over the MySpace or like the AOL. I didn't get an AOL, but we know what it is. Talk about like, making sure that you're like, I'm just going to make you feel really nostalgic when you see the MySpace, and the AOL from.
Yeah, I mean, we knew that was going to be really fun. I want to say one thing about Joan is I don't think she's giving herself enough credit about like helping the first-time actors shine. I don't know if you guys know that, but the grandma in the movie is like my real grandma. And she's never acted before, and I think Joan, I don't even think I didn't realize this on set, but like Joan really had to be the water to carry her performance because, her blocking would maybe like she wouldn't hit her mark every take or she would do something a little bit different. But Joan was the one who was kind of like molding her performance so that she wasn't like stumbling. And I don't know, I look back and I'm like, whoa, Joan just gave us so much without like, like molding into our process and trying to figure out the sort of unique language of this movie because it was sort of like, it felt like making 3 separate movies because this version was like the adolescent craziness and then this version was like no one's improvising, and then there was like the middle ground. But anyway, MySpace. I think for me, the fun part was like not wanting to treat this movie like a nostalgia piece, but just the fact that it's set in 2008 and that we were incorporating the internet, that it was gonna, sort of be nostalgic by nature. And so I think the hope was that that first scene when it takes place on the computer, that when you see the Microsoft XP and the Mozilla Firefox and the AIM and the door window, like, I remember, I hear those sounds and I'm like, whoa. It's sort of like, whoa, fuck, the cringe thing. But the hope was that, like, once you get over the nostalgia of it all and sort of going down memory lane, that it does just become, or it is just a part of this kid's world. It's not trying to be like, remember this and this. Like, we're not trying to go out of our way to put things in front of you that don't make sense for the story. And so that was the hope, that the internet of the movie just kind of feels like what this kid would use the internet for, which is just being on MySpace and AIM and YouTube, and just the fact that he's using it as he would, it's inherently nostalgic because I think we all, even if you weren't a teenager during that time, like we do all have like relationships with those interfaces now. Like you change the UI of Instagram and all of a sudden like it's a new era. I used to think back at that time period as like, this, I don't know, date me I guess, but like, I felt like my life was kind of like time posted by like game consoles. It was like, oh, this was my life with the Nintendo 64 was like the thing, and then Xbox became Xbox 360, and that was one generation, and this was one generation. And now it's like every year we have a new generation because it's like there's a new iPhone every year. And so it felt like this time period, like that was the MySpace generation where everybody was on MySpace. Some people were on LiveJournal and saying it was just, I don't know, felt like a period that hadn't really been captured, and so we felt like it was an opportunity to just kind of show it authentically.
I want to touch on something you said earlier about framing Joan and her face and this expression, and it's so powerful. What conversations did you have with your cinematographer about how you would capture, Joan in this world?
I mean, I don't think we had, any like specific conversation of like, you have to shoot Joan like this or anything, but like, I think Sam, my cinematographer and I, we've known each other for 10 years now, and we've been working together for 10 years too, and he's just also like my best friend, and I think Sam specifically, like we just did this short film also with my grandmothers before we shot the movie, and I think he just has this really, really amazing gift as a cinematographer of like taking things that are like our everyday lives and things that are sort of like seemingly mundane and making them feel so warm and larger than life and poetic and emotional. And I think that's obviously what we were trying to do with this movie, is that how do you take the stakes of a 13-year-old boy, which, on paper, when you say it out loud, it's like, it's not that, life or death, but when you sort of like go into his perspective and sort of see the world as he sees it, it is really beautiful and larger than life and human and emotional. And that was the same thing we wanted to sort of like treat each character with. It's like the way he photographs things and like the way the light kind of hits their faces softly. We kind of talked about it as like, oh, this is a movie about faces. And more than anything, like Joan and Isaac, like I feel like their best moments are sort of like, what are they feeling? Let's just cut to their face. And I think even with Joan, there were moments in the edit where I felt like my writing was getting in the way. Like there would be like a passage that she said, and I'm like, her eyes do everything. Like my words are making it all clunky. Like we can just like linger on her eyes, and it's just like, oof. And so I felt like we realized that was kind of our secret weapon as we kept shooting. It was like, oh, this is just a movie about Isaac and Joan and like all their faces and how they're taking in information and like feeling a little bit out of place in places where they should feel like home.
Yeah, I just want to be like with all the kids or, with grandma, just one of them. I mean, I don't think there's any like special treatment or lighting for Joan. Just in a way, like I adapt to grandma, just whatever she is doing, I adapt around her, all with the other first timers. It's wonderful. In the end, we really did feel like a family. I mean, I probably text Sean's mom more than I text him. Definitely. Definitely.
What are you guys talking about?
Oh my god, I love that. Speaking about scenes and the family, I love the scene at the end, when he gets in the car and then, they go into the house and sitting at the table. Talk about shooting that scene with Isaac.
There were the two important scenes in the end. One is that Chen tells her son about her dream, that she wanted to be an artist, that she had other dreams. The other one is the last shot that we look at each other. I remember the scene that I was talking about my dreams. We did very few takes, but I did remember Sean reminding me of having a little slight moment of levity, and I think that was really good. That was a very good direction. It was a piece of dialogue that poured out of me that I know my daughter is at the monitor watching and almost like telling my daughter. I mean, I did have to stop working for a bit when I was raising the kids, and so that is a scene that I felt like this dialogue, though it's a small reminder, it's really good that makes the whole scene much better. The other one with me and Isaac looking at each other, it also felt that I'm just looking at Audrey because she is at the monitor looking at me, and I'm like looking at Isaac. And I remember, I mean, that's a scene that's supposed to be what it is here. I don't know if you remember, I was just like, tears were just pouring out of me, and it was wrong. I was just like, okay, let's do this again. Okay, this time I'm not gonna cry. You know, the whole thing, it just feels so dear and close to me.
Yeah. I mean, I do remember, wanting, like, we didn't end up doing this, but I had this thought where I was like, oh, her daughter's here. What if we just had her sit in and, like, she was looking at, it was like this very, like, experimental auteur thought. I was like, oh yeah, she should just look at Audrey. That would make it so meta. We didn't end up doing that. We didn't need to. We didn't need to do that, those tricks, because obviously she's so good. But, you know, it was that thing of, again, like, the end scene really is like, again, going back to their faces and their eyes. Like, it was like, okay, we did, and I love endings like that in movies, you know, where it's like, you've done all of your traditional storytelling for 90 minutes, and you've used all the bells and whistles of dialogue and editing, and, like, hopefully, if you do your job right, like, if you love these characters, by the end of it, you can just hold on their faces and have a silent moment, and you can just let that sort of emotion pour over you. That was the hope. I don't know. I hope it worked. I think it did. Yeah.
I love that. Joan, before I wrap up, I just want to say, so last night, Joan received the Critics' Choice Association Achievement Award, and her speech was so beautiful, and in it, you know, you said you received, you know, more accolades for this film, Dìdi, than you did for the last time. What is this, you know, what does it all mean to you, like, to have been on this journey, to be receiving, you know, everybody praising you for this performance? Like, talk about that, especially with this incredible career that you've had.
Honestly, I was very surprised. I'm sure we didn't ever expect. I mean, we were having a good time shooting the film, and really didn't expect. I know it's a great script. I know he's doing a great job, and I loved what we did on the set. But it's a small little film, and I honestly didn't expect, like, to have the kind of reviews or, you know, singling out my performance. I was just truly surprised, but very happily surprised. I've done it, you know, first in China, then in the US, you know, for half a century, for a very, very long time. And in the 40 years that I worked in the United States, and then The Last Emperor won 9 Oscars, I didn't think I'm used to not getting mentioned or anything like that. And so for a small independent film, and when I was recognized, it was nice, obviously, but it was so surprising. I'm just more surprised than anything.
Well, you deserve it. You're more than deserving of it. And Sean, last question. I mean, we've spoken about this in the past, you know, growing up, when you're watching Coming of Age films, we don't see kids that look like us on screen. You've given us this film, Dìdi. What does this mean for you to have Dìdi out, and for, like, you know, future kids who look like us to look, you know, to have this film, this be part of your incredible legacy? I mean, you're still, like, barely, like, 30 years old, and, you know.
Our birthdays are 2 days apart. No, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's really surreal. Like Joan said, you know, I think, you know, I've made shorts in the past, and sometimes you work on something, you're just like, oh, I think this is gonna be really, really cool, and it's gonna hit, and it doesn't. And sometimes you work on stuff, and you're like, oh, like, I wonder if anyone will like this, and it, like, you know, goes viral, or a lot of people see it and resonate with it. So I think I've learned that the only thing you can really curate is, like, your relationship to the project, the people you get to work with, the experience you have for yourself, and you try to make the thing that you're proud of and you can stand behind, separate of how other people are going to receive the movie, because nothing's guaranteed. You know, so much of, I think, movies finding audiences is so out of your hands, you know? And so I think that was the only thing I could control, is that you know, it's a movie that has my grandma in it, my mom was involved, it's obviously a love letter to her. I wanted the experience of this movie to be just as special as, like, or very special but separate from, like, the movie needing to be beloved by, like, I couldn't have the success of this movie be predicated on reviews or audiences seeing it, because, like, again, it's, you know, like, there's films at Sundance from last year that haven't sold, you know, like, it's the industry was in a very strange place when we were making the movie, like, you know, we were so lucky that we got the SAG Indie Award too, so it was just sort of like, the only thing I could control with this movie was my own relationship to it, like, the people I got to make it with, and we made it with some of my best friends, and I think that sort of, the word we keep using is like homegrown and familial and communal, and I was kind of just like, I need to know that even if nobody else sees this movie, that we made something that was honest for my mom, for my friends, for my family, that, like, this was, at the end of the day, like, we can look back at this experience and be like, whoa, that was so special and pure, and not this, like, big Hollywood production trying to be, like, masquerade as, like, a, you know, little homegrown movie. It was, like Joan said, it was very small. And her daughter was on set, and we really tried to keep that sort of purity. And so for that to all of a sudden, you know, get to, you know, have these sort of screenings and conversations, and just, again, like, even be in a conversation, and, you know, people will come up to me like, we saw your movie, I'm like, no way, where'd you see it? And, like, your poster's in the AMC, like, and it's like, wow, like, that journey has been so far beyond what, like, I expected. And obviously, again, like, we're very proud of it and happy that's happening, but, like, even if it didn't happen, I know we would still be very proud of the movie and how we made it.
Yeah, I mean, we're all actors here. We all know our best time is, like, when we did a good scene. You know, in the creation of something is our happiest time. It's like, even if you did a movie with only 2 scenes, and if you did that one scene so great, you're just so happy. And so that's where happiness lies, in the creation of it. And the recognition, icing on the cake, or a nice pat on the shoulder. So, yeah, the most fun I had, we already had in his backyard. Yeah.
There's more to be told. I want to say thank you for the gift of Dìdi. Thank you for that conversation. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Jazz. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for being with us tonight.